Leo, this week is about the difference between being seen and being accountable. Your card is Justice, and justice does not ask whether your intentions were good enough to excuse the impact. It asks whether your choices, standards, promises, and consequences are in balance. There are no verified astrological events supplied for this week, so there is no need to manufacture a cosmic deadline or external turning point. The tarot can carry the message on its own. Justice is clear, measured, and unsentimental without being cruel. For Leo, this card can be especially powerful because it brings attention to integrity behind the image. It asks whether the version of you that people admire is supported by the decisions nobody applauds. Your central thesis is this: self-respect grows when your private standards and public identity match. Justice is often associated with fairness, truth, cause and effect, contracts, accountability, and balanced judgment. But this is not only about legal or formal situations. It is about the everyday agreements you make with yourself and others. Did you say you would do something? Did you follow through? Did you ask for a standard you were also willing to meet? Did you make a choice and then resent the consequence as if it came from nowhere? In love, justice asks for clean agreements. If you are in a relationship, look at reciprocity. Are both people carrying emotional labor, initiating repair, respecting boundaries, and making room for each other's reality? Fairness does not mean identical effort every day. It means the relationship can tolerate honest conversation about imbalance. If you are single, this card can help you evaluate people by consistency rather than charisma. Attraction may be immediate, but trust is accumulated. Watch whether words and behavior line up. This week, resist the temptation to make yourself either the hero or the villain in a relationship story. Justice works with evidence. You may have contributed to a problem without being entirely responsible for it. Someone else may have hurt you without being entirely defined by that action. Mature judgment can hold complexity without abandoning standards. At work, justice may focus your attention on responsibility, credit, expectations, or boundaries. Perhaps you are doing more than your role requires while quietly hoping someone notices. Perhaps you are asking for recognition but have not clearly communicated what you need. Perhaps a project needs a more objective measure of success. This is a good week to define criteria. Instead of relying on mood, decide what completion, quality, fairness, or reasonable effort actually looks like. Leo, your pride can be protective when it helps you refuse disrespect. But pride can also make correction feel humiliating. Justice says correction is not humiliation. Being wrong about one thing does not diminish your worth. In fact, the ability to revise your position can strengthen your authority. People often trust someone more when that person can say, "I missed that, I understand the impact, and here is what I will do differently." With money, justice asks you to look at numbers without drama. Avoid turning a financial snapshot into a character judgment. If something is out of balance, measure it. What is coming in? What is going out? What commitment is sustainable? What needs to be renegotiated? Financial integrity is not perfection. It is knowing the truth and making decisions from it. This card can also reveal where spending is being used to maintain an image. There is nothing wrong with beauty, pleasure, quality, or generosity. Leo often understands the value of creating an experience. But make sure the expense serves your real priorities rather than an imagined audience. In health and energy, justice is about proportion. Effort and recovery need a relationship. Discipline and compassion need a relationship. You may be tempted to compensate for inconsistency with an extreme correction. Instead, choose a standard you can actually repeat. A balanced system beats a dramatic reset. Wednesday is about evidence. Choose one situation that feels emotionally charged and write down only the observable facts. Separate them from assumptions, motives, and predictions. This creates a fairer starting point. Thursday is about reciprocity. Notice one relationship or work dynamic where effort feels uneven. Ask whether the imbalance is temporary, communicated, and consensual, or whether it has quietly become the norm. Friday is about accountability. Identify one promise you made to yourself or someone else that needs either completion or renegotiation. Do not leave it in vague guilt. Resolve the agreement. Saturday is about standards. Write down one standard you expect from others and ask whether you consistently offer the same thing. If the answer is no, adjust without self-attack. Sunday is about repair. If there is a conversation you have been avoiding because you fear losing face, consider whether a simple acknowledgement could restore more dignity than continued avoidance. Monday is about decision. Justice favors choices made from criteria rather than pressure. Before saying yes or no, name the principle you are using. Tuesday is about consequence. Look back at the week's choices and notice what each one produced. Do not moralize the result. Learn from it. Cause and effect are useful teachers when you stop treating them as punishment. Your first journal prompt is, where am I asking to be understood without fully examining my own impact? Your second journal prompt is, which standard in my life needs to become clearer, fairer, or more mutual? Your third journal prompt is, what consequence am I ready to accept in order to live more honestly? For your weekly guidance, create a personal balance sheet that has nothing to do with money. Draw 4 rows: promises made, promises kept, promises to renegotiate, and promises to release. List no more than 3 items in each row. Then choose one item from promises to renegotiate and address it directly within 24 hours. Send the message, change the deadline, clarify the expectation, or admit that the agreement no longer works. Your assignment is to reduce one area of invisible moral debt. There is a deeper lesson here about fairness to yourself. Justice does not only demand accountability from you. It also asks you to stop accepting blame that is not yours. If someone refuses to communicate, that is data. If a system is unfair, naming it is not self-pity. If you have met a reasonable standard and another person keeps moving the goalposts, the solution may not be more effort. Self-honesty cuts both ways. It asks you to own your impact, and it asks you to stop volunteering for guilt simply because you are capable of carrying it. Leo, there may be a part of you that wants the verdict before the process. You want to know whether you were right, whether they were wrong, whether the decision will work, whether the outcome will validate you. Justice asks for a different kind of confidence. Act according to your standard before the applause, before the vindication, before the guarantee. This can feel quieter than your usual form of courage. It is not the courage to be visible. It is the courage to be consistent. Pay attention to where you are performing certainty because uncertainty feels like weakness. A fair judgment can include, I need more information. A mature boundary can include, I am still deciding. A responsible apology can include, I understand more now than I did before. None of these statements reduce your power. They make your power more trustworthy. Justice also reminds you that consequences are not always dramatic. Sometimes the consequence of living out of alignment is subtle: fatigue, resentment, avoidance, a loss of confidence in yourself. Sometimes the consequence of integrity is equally subtle: cleaner sleep, simpler conversations, fewer explanations, and the quiet knowledge that you handled something well. This week, let your dignity come from coherence rather than image. Let your decisions be able to survive private review. Let your standards be clear enough that you do not have to reinvent them in every emotionally charged moment. There is one final question justice places in front of you. What would fairness look like if you were not trying to protect your pride? Sometimes fairness means giving yourself credit. Sometimes it means admitting that another person's criticism contains something useful. Sometimes it means refusing a demand that depends on your silence. Let the answer be specific. Integrity becomes real through behavior, not through the idea you have of yourself. Your affirmation this week is, I choose truth, proportion, and integrity even when no one is watching. Carry that with you through August 18th. Subscribe so your next weekly reading is waiting for you. Trust the timing. The stars have spoken.